The hallway light was still green. We have one of those motion sensor bulbs that turns red if no one walks by it for more than 10 minutes. It had been green for hours, which meant someone kept walking past it. Over and over. I was sitting on the floor of the laundry room with my back against the dryer. The hum of it running had long since stopped, but I couldn't move. I had a blanket wrapped around my shoulders. Not because I was cold, I just didn't want to feel like I was wearing what I wore when this night began. Every time the green light flickered again in the hallway, I thought, this is the last time. She's going to come in now. She has to. But the door never opened. Only the light, blinking its judgment. I could hear the elevator chime through the wall. Once at 1:48 a.m. Again at 2:23. Once more at 3:04. But none of them brought her. Around 4 a.m., the light stayed red. Finally, I thought it meant she stopped pacing. That she came in quietly and maybe, just maybe, felt guilty enough to pretend like this marriage still mattered. I stood up, walked down the hallway. The front door was still deadbolt from the inside. Her coat was still gone from the rack. Her phone charger unplugged. One heel on the mat. One missing. The light turned green again. But there was no one there. Just air. I opened the fridge. She had taken the last slice of cake I bought for our anniversary. The one she forgot. She had left the plastic container wide open, like she didn't even care if it spoiled. I stared at it for a long time. That was the moment. Not the empty bed. Not the silence. Not even the way she laughed at my face the last time I asked if something was wrong. It was the damn cake. The forgotten, stolen, half-eaten cake. That's when I sat down at the kitchen table and wrote the note. I'm leaving. Good luck with your. I left the rest blank. Because whatever she was choosing over me, she could have it. All of it. I didn't sleep. I couldn't. Not even after I left the note. I just sat in the driver's seat of my car outside our building. Engine off, hands shaking, watching the sunrise smear across the skyline like someone dragged a dirty brush across the clouds. The world looked exhausted, like it didn't want to wake up either. For some reason, I couldn't bring myself to drive away. Maybe I wanted to see her face when she realized I was gone. Maybe I still believed she'd come home with a miracle excuse. Or maybe I wanted to catch her in the lie. See it unfold in real time instead of letting my imagination twist it into something even worse. At 6:12 a.m., my phone buzzed. Blocked number. I didn't answer. 10 seconds later, voicemail notification. I stared at the phone for a while, then opened the message. There was no greeting, just breathing. Then a voice I didn't recognize, calm and low, like someone trying not to wake a sleeping child. Hey, I don't know what she told you, but you deserve to know the truth. She's not who you think she is. She's not even close. I thought she'd be honest with you after what happened tonight, but I guess she couldn't do it. So yeah, sorry man. The message ended there. No name, no context, just that voice, like someone who had given up trying to be the good guy and settled for being the last one to speak. I played it again, then again. My mind was sprinting in 1,000 directions, trying to fill in the blanks. What happened tonight? Who was he? How did he get my number? Was she with him while I was begging her to come home in my head? That's when something inside me cracked. Not a clean snap. More like a slow peel, like wallpaper pulling off after years of damp silence. I wasn't angry. Not yet. I was hollow. And in that hollow space, for the first time in years, something started to grow, resolve. I drove. Not away, toward the one place she never wanted me to go. The bar she always swore was just a chill spot, but never let me visit. The one where her old friend group always seemed to need her at the exact moment I needed her home. I had never stepped foot inside. Until now. The parking lot was nearly empty. A bartender with a mop glanced up as I pulled in. A few cars remained, but one stood out immediately, hers. Parked sideways, wheels crooked like someone left in a hurry, or didn't care where they stopped. I got out of the car, walked up to the driver's side, and peered in. There was a jacket on the passenger seat. Not hers. And a receipt. I squinted through the window. 2 drinks. 1 room. 1 king bed. From a hotel 5 blocks away. Dated 3:28 a.m. I stepped back, heart thudding like a slow drumbeat. And suddenly the cold morning air felt electric against my skin. I wasn't imagining things anymore. Something happened last night. And I was done pretending I didn't see it. I stood outside the hotel for nearly 15 minutes before walking in. Not because I was afraid, not exactly. It was more like my body didn't trust my brain anymore. Like something in me knew once I stepped through those glass doors, I'd become someone else, someone who couldn't unsee, unhear, or unfeel what was waiting on the other side. The lobby was too bright, too clean. Fake orchids in white vases. Air that smelled like lemons and secrets. I approached the front desk slowly, heart pounding in my ears. The clerk, a woman maybe in her 20s, with red lipstick and earbuds in one ear, didn't even look up from her screen. "I need to ask about a guest," I said, trying to keep my voice steady. She gave a small shake of her head, still typing. "Sorry, sir. We don't give out guest information." "I think my wife is here," I said quietly. "She wasn't supposed to be. I need to know if she's okay." That made her pause. She looked up, finally noticing the wild in my eyes, the desperation I was trying so hard to keep from pouring out of me. "Name?" she asked. I gave her my wife's full name. Her fingers danced over the keyboard. She tilted her head. Then, with a slight wince, as if she was trying to stop herself but couldn't, she said, "She checked in last night. Around 3:15 a.m. Room 309. I didn't say thank you. I just turned and walked straight toward the elevators. Every second in that lift felt like being underwater, holding my breath longer than I ever had in my life. When the doors slid open on the third floor, the hallway felt endless. Cream-colored carpet, low-humming lights. My legs felt like they were moving on their own, each step heavier than the last. I stopped at 309. No sounds. No movement. I didn't knock. I didn't scream. I just leaned forward, rested my forehead against the door, and whispered, "Please don't be in there. Please let this be a mistake." Then I heard it. A laugh. Soft. Female. Hers. Followed by a man's voice. Muffled but unmistakably familiar. Not because I knew him, but because I had imagined his voice in my nightmares for months. That low, confident tone of someone who knows he's winning. That casual arrogance of a man who doesn't care what, or who, he's breaking. I backed away from the door like it had burned me. My mouth was dry. My palms were soaked. I didn't know what I was doing until I was doing it. I called her. My thumb trembled as I hit her name. Inside the room, I heard her phone ring. Then silence. No movement. No voices. 10 seconds passed. Then the lock turned. The door cracked open. And there she was. Hair a mess. Eyes wide. Wrapped in one of those white hotel robes they give to everyone, but somehow looked like a costume on her now. Her face froze when she saw me, like someone caught mid-lie, still searching for the right script. Behind her, a man was putting on his shirt. His back was to me. Tall. Athletic. Tan line on the back of his neck. That was all I saw. I looked back at her. She opened her mouth to speak, but I was already walking away. I didn't need to hear anything. She had told me everything already. With her silence. With her distance. With that laugh. And now, with this door. I didn't go home. I didn't even go to my brother's place like I said I would. I just drove. Nowhere in particular. Past the edge of the city, out where the streetlights give up and the billboards are faded from years of pretending anyone cared. I pulled off onto some dirt road I didn't recognize, killed the engine, and sat there. Hours passed. I didn't listen to music. I didn't cry. I didn't scream. I just existed, like a ghost behind the wheel, haunted by a truth I always knew but never let myself say out loud. She was with someone else. Not just physically. That part was obvious now. But spiritually, emotionally. Deep down, I had already lost her. What I didn't realize until standing outside that hotel room door is how long I had been holding on to a version of her that didn't exist anymore. Around 10:43 that night, my phone lit up. A photo. From her. I stared at the preview in the notification bar, afraid to open it. Not because of what I might see, but because of what it meant, that she had the audacity to reach out, knowing I saw everything. No apology. No explanation. Just a photo. Against my better judgment, I opened it. It was a picture of our cat, Marshmallow. He was lying on his back on the kitchen table, something she used to scream at him for. But now, she captioned it. "He misses you. I think we both do." My hands started shaking. That line, "I think we both do," was more brutal than anything she could have screamed at me. It was casual, deliberate, like the whole thing was a misunderstanding. Like I hadn't stood outside a hotel room while she laughed in a robe that wasn't hers. Like I hadn't heard a man zipping his jeans behind her. I stared at the screen for what felt like an eternity. I didn't respond. I couldn't. But I did something I never thought I would. I opened our shared cloud album. Something told me to look. And there it was. A video, dated the same night I caught her. Timestamped just before I arrived at the hotel. I clicked play, my heart already bracing for impact. It was shaky footage. Her voice in the background. Music playing. Laughing. She was recording herself in the back seat of a car. His car, I assume. She held up a drink. Whispered something like, "Cheers to bad decisions," and panned the camera toward him. Just for a second. His face wasn't fully shown, but it was enough. I recognized the man. Not from social media. Not from some accidental run-in. But from our wedding. He was at our wedding. Third row. Navy suit. The same man who once gave a toast to forever love. The same man who handed me a beer the night I proposed and said, "You're braver than me." He was my friend. Or at least, I thought he was. I dropped the phone. It hit the passenger seat like a stone. And that's when I laughed. Not out of humor, but because something inside me finally broke in a way that couldn't be glued back together. This wasn't just betrayal. This was betrayal choreographed, rehearsed, and filmed for memories. And I was the punchline. I didn't sleep again. I just sat in my car for most of the night. Engine off, my breath fogging the windshield as the world quietly moved on without me. When the sky started turning that weird pale gray before sunrise, I knew what I had to do. I wasn't ready for revenge, and I wasn't chasing closure. I just needed to see him. The man who smiled in our wedding photos, who hugged me after my mom's funeral, who once stood in my kitchen eating chili and calling my wife sis, like the liar he was. I needed to look him in the face and confirm he really was that kind of man. I drove straight to his apartment building. I remembered the code. He made it the score of the Colts game where he won $600 on a bet we made over pizza and beer. That was a year ago. Before everything. Before he became the kind of person who could sleep with his best friend's wife and still keep my cat in the shared album like nothing changed. The hallway smelled like burnt toast and cheap cologne. When I got to his door, I didn't knock right away. I stood there, fist clenched, heart hammering. What was I expecting? An apology? A fight? A breakdown where he confessed everything like a guilty priest? I knocked. Soft at first. Then harder. No answer. I was about to give up when the door finally clicked and opened halfway. There he was. Griffin. Same dumb smirk, same smug eyes. Shirtless. Half asleep. Or maybe hungover. His hair was messed up, and for a second, I almost believed this was all a misunderstanding. That maybe someone else borrowed his car. That maybe the video was a mistake. But then he said, "You look like hell." And just like that, I knew. No guilt. No shame. Just amusement. Like this was some bad soap opera he was watching from the best seat in the house. I didn't lunge at him. Didn't scream. I said, "Griffey." It was the nickname I gave him in college. No one else ever used it. Not even his girlfriends. Just me. I don't know why I said it. Maybe because I wanted to remind him who I was. Maybe I thought that would make him flinch. But he didn't. He just stepped aside like I was someone stopping by for coffee. I walked in. There were 2 coffee mugs on the table. One with lipstick on the rim. One with his college logo. My wife wasn't there, at least not that I could see, but her scarf was draped over the back of a chair like she lived there now. I stared at it for a moment, then turned to him. "How long?" I asked. He rubbed his jaw. "Long enough to know you'd never leave her." That sentence hit harder than any punch ever could. He wasn't even trying to defend himself. He wasn't denying anything. He knew me. Knew how I clung to things long after they were broken. Knew I was the guy who forgave too fast, who waited too long, who prayed that people would change if I just loved them hard enough. "You were at our wedding," I said. "You gave a speech." He shrugged. "So did your uncle. He cheats too." The air got thick. My hands started to shake. My jaw clenched so tight I thought my teeth might crack. But I didn't hit him. I just picked up the mug with the lipstick. Held it for a second. It was still warm. "She's here," I said quietly. He didn't respond. I put the mug down and walked out before I did something irreversible. But I wasn't done. Because that night, when I finally went home, when I opened the door to our silent apartment and found her waiting at the kitchen table like nothing happened, that's when the real confrontation began. And the words she said to me next? They broke something in me I didn't know could be broken. When I got home, the apartment was too quiet, the kind of silence that doesn't feel peaceful, but calculated. Like a stage had been set. Every light was off except the one above the kitchen table, which glowed dim and yellow like it was afraid to get involved in what was about to happen. She was sitting there, phone in hand, not texting, not scrolling, just holding it like a prop. Her hair was still damp. She had showered, changed into a sweatshirt I didn't recognize. She looked like someone else's girlfriend. I stood in the doorway for a full minute before she even looked up. "You came back," she said, not surprised, not relieved, just stating a fact like she was tracking my movements on a spreadsheet. I didn't answer. I just closed the door behind me and walked to the edge of the kitchen, keeping the counter between us like it was some kind of shield. She glanced at the clock, then took a sip from the glass in front of her. Red wine. Second glass, judging by the empty one beside it. "I saw the video," I finally said. My voice cracked halfway through the sentence. I didn't care. She tilted her head, almost curious. "Which one?" That question alone made my stomach twist. I swallowed the rising bile and kept going. "The one in the car. With Griffin." A pause. Not guilt. Not panic. Just a pause. Like she was replaying the footage in her own mind, not to remember it, but to decide how much she wanted to admit. She finally spoke, slowly, as if choosing each word like a surgeon with a scalpel. "You shouldn't have gone through the cloud. That was private." That was her defense. Not denial. Not regret. Just a soft accusation, like I was the one who crossed the line. I felt something inside me cave in. That was the moment I realized I wasn't standing across from a broken partner. I was standing across from a stranger wearing the skin of the woman I used to love. "Why him?" I asked. "Out of all people." "Griffin? He was I stopped. The word friend tasted like ash now. She took another sip of wine, leaned back in the chair, and then gave me a smile I'll never forget. Not because it was cruel, but because it was empty. "Because he listens," she said. I stared at her, stunned. "I listen." She laughed, not loud, but sharp. "No. You hear me, but you don't listen. Not really. You just process things. You're like a filing cabinet. I tell you I'm unhappy, and you just make a mental note and move on. He actually sees me. He makes me feel like a person. You make me feel like a schedule." I didn't know whether to cry or scream. I felt like my heart had been pulled out and pinned to the wall so she could critique it. "I worked. I provided. I tried." "I know," she said, softer now, almost pitying. "But that's not love, Darwin. That's just maintenance." Hearing my name from her lips made it worse. She only used it when she wanted to twist the knife. I sat down across from her, suddenly more tired than I'd ever felt in my life. My bones ached. My voice was hoarse. "You cheated on me, and you're saying it's because I scheduled too many grocery runs?" She didn't flinch. "No," she whispered. "I cheated on you because I stopped caring if you left." And then, before I could even respond, she reached into her pocket and slid something across the table toward me. A folded piece of paper. At first I thought it was my note, the one I left her. "I'm leaving. Good luck with your..." But it wasn't. It was another note. One written by her. And what it said changed everything I thought I knew about how deep this went. I stared at the folded piece of paper sitting in front of me like it was some cursed object. My name wasn't on it. Nothing was. Just a sharp, perfect fold down the center like it had been opened and closed 100 times. She didn't speak, just stared into her glass of wine like the paper spoke for her. I waited a few seconds, maybe hoping she'd change her mind, say it wasn't important, say don't read that. But she didn't. And I opened it. The handwriting was hers. Careful. Clean. The kind of penmanship she only used when she wanted something to feel permanent. "Griffin, I keep thinking about how different everything feels when I'm with you. How light. How real. I don't have to explain myself around you. You already know. It's like we're speaking a language he's never learned." I tried. I really did. But I can't pretend anymore. I'm tired of pretending to laugh at his jokes. I'm tired of waking up next to a man who thinks checking the dishwasher is foreplay. I'm tired of being a ghost in a house that smells like guilt and burnt coffee. I know what we talked about. And I know I said I wasn't ready. But maybe I am. Maybe it's time. Maybe I'll finally leave him. Soon. Love. K. I didn't breathe while reading it. My vision blurred halfway through, but I forced myself to finish every word, like it was a punishment I deserved. When I looked up, she was already watching me. Not with fear, not even with regret, but with calm. "You wrote this to him," I said slowly. "Yes. While we were still married." "We still are," she said casually. That part hit harder than the letter. That subtle reminder that, technically, she was still my wife. Still wearing the ring. Still sharing the lease. Still existing in the same legal space as me, even though emotionally, spiritually, humanly, She had already moved into a world I was never invited into. I set the letter down like it might bite me if I held it any longer. You were planning this, I said, my voice hollow. For how long? She shrugged. I don't know. A while. Then why wait? Why drag me through it? Why the dinners? The fake I love yous? The long hugs before work? The late-night movies where you held my hand, even though you hated the film? She swirled the wine in her glass, watching it like it held a better answer than she could give. Then she met my eyes, and there was a flicker of something. Not remorse. Not affection. Just relief. Because I wanted to be sure, she said. And I wanted to see if you'd finally become the man I was hoping for. But you didn't. You just kept being you. It was the most brutal thing anyone had ever said to me. Not because she was yelling. Not because she was cruel. But because it was delivered with such terrifying calmness, like a therapist gently explaining why the patient didn't survive the surgery. I was going to leave you next month, she added. I already spoke to a lawyer. I had a place picked out. I had everything lined up. But you showing up at the hotel, it forced things early. That was it. That was the whole explanation. No apology. No breakdown. No desperate attempt to make things right. Just a quiet confession, like she was returning a library book a few days early. I stood up, my legs numb. You planned a future with my best friend, I said, barely recognizing my own voice. He was never your best friend, she replied. He was just better at pretending than you were. I turned and walked toward the door. I didn't pack. I didn't scream. I didn't take anything but the clothes on my back and a shattered understanding of everything I thought I knew about love. But just as I opened the door, she called out, Darwin. I stopped. She waited a moment, then said, You're not the victim here. You just didn't pay attention. And that's when I realized. She really believed that. I didn't go back to the apartment after that night. I didn't answer her texts, not the guilt-laced ones, not the weird ones about the cat, and not even the one that said, I hope you can forgive me someday. I didn't block her. I just muted her. Like a song you used to love that hurts too much to hear now. I crashed on my cousin's pull-out couch for a few weeks. Ate takeout, drank too much Sprite, watched reruns of game shows I didn't care about. I barely spoke for the first few days. I'd go for long drives without a destination. Let the silence stretch. Let the wound breathe. But slowly, and I mean slowly, I began to feel something I hadn't felt in a long time. Relief. There was no more pretending. No more tightrope walking across her moods. No more waiting up until 3 a.m. hoping she'd remember she had a husband. The pain didn't go away overnight. It still lingered in strange places. In the smell of her shampoo on a pillow I forgot to wash. In the way I instinctively reached for 2 coffee mugs in the morning. But something else started to grow in that space where the pain used to be. Peace. I got my own place. Nothing fancy. A 1-bedroom near the edge of town with creaky floors and a kitchen light that flickered when it rained. But it was mine. I painted the walls. Bought a plant. Started reading again. I even rescued a second cat from the shelter and named him Chance, because he looked like a second draft of Marshmallow, but with brighter eyes. Griffin texted me once. I didn't even open it. She tried calling again a few weeks after the papers were finalized. I let it ring. And then, one morning, I walked past a little bookstore on Main Street and saw a flyer in the window for a local writing group. I went in, sat in the back, and listened. I didn't say anything the first few sessions, just nodded as people shared stories about grief, love, guilt, healing. Then, one night, I brought in my own words. Not a rant, not a revenge fantasy. Just the story of a man who loved too much, stayed too long, and finally left when it no longer made sense to stay. They listened. And for the first time in what felt like years, I felt seen. Weeks turned to months. And one rainy Sunday afternoon, I met someone, not in a forced, rebound sort of way. Just organically. She spilled her coffee on my shoes in a library and laughed like it was the funniest thing that had ever happened. Her name's Emily. She listens. Really listens. She doesn't ask me to be someone else. She laughs at my bad jokes. She told me once, You're gentle. That's rare. And you know what? I believe her. Because for the first time in a long time, I like who I am. The last thing my ex ever said to me was, You're not the victim here. And maybe she was right. Because now that I've stopped bleeding for someone who never brought a bandage, I don't feel like a victim. I feel like a man who finally walked out of the burning house and learned how to breathe again. And the best part? She'll never know what it feels like to miss me.